What if ADHD runs in families not just through your genes, but through stress, emotional dysregulation, and undiagnosed parents that were just trying to survive? There was a study in 2022 published in Sage Journals that said a growing literature suggests attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is a heritable condition. In the study, they evaluated children at risk for ADHD by virtue of having parents with ADHD and compared them with children of parents without ADHD to assess the degree of heritability of ADHD. This study showed children with parental ADHD had significantly more full or subthreshold psychiatric disorders, including ADHD, but others also, as well as functional impairments compared to children without parental ADHD. Some key finding statistics. Child to parent link. For every child diagnosed with ADHD, there's an estimated 30 to 40% chance that at least one parent also has the disorder. Parent to child risk. Studies indicate an up to 57% risk of a child developing ADHD if a parent has ADHD. Sibling risk. If a sibling has ADHD, a child has about a 32% chance of having it also. And finally, the gender differences. One study found that 48% of children with at least one ADHD parent had a mother with ADHD, while 47% had a father with ADHD. Now let's discuss Gabor Mate's somewhat controversial theory. In his book, Scattered Minds, he talks about ADHD not just as something passed down biologically, but as something that may repeat through the emotional environment of the family, especially when generation after generation goes undiagnosed, unsupported, and overwhelmed, like an endless cycle. And that the heredity link is not necessarily through genes, but may come from a parent or caregiver with ADHD, causing stress and childhood trauma in the home, which is a repeating cycle, generations after generations, especially during times of non-diagnosis. ADHD may run in families not only because of genes, but because the parents with untreated ADHD shape the very emotional environment children grow up in. This can create generational cycles, like you can see in cases of abuse or alcoholism. A parent has undiagnosed ADHD. They struggle with emotional regulation, stress, overwhelm, impulsivity, disorganization, and inconsistency. They're not bad parents, but they may be overloaded parents. The child grows up in a home that may feel unpredictable, reactive, tense, and emotionally unsafe at times. The stress around the child intensifies attention, regulation, and emotional difficulties as mental and emotional protections. Then the child becomes an adult, perhaps undiagnosed or unsupported, and then potentially the cycle repeats. This isn't about blaming parents. It's about understanding how untreated ADHD, stress, emotional dysregulation, and survival patterns can pass through a family system before anyone even has the language to name what's happening. I think it might be a good idea to look at correlations and causations. Just because something correlates doesn't mean it's the cause. Here's a ridiculous example. This chart's showing the correlation between associate's degrees awarded in mathematics and statistics. I know, ironic. Compared to Google searches for dollar stores near me. They match up almost identically. But no one thinks that these are causing each other. They're just correlated for random reasons. This one isn't going to be easy to discuss, but I think it's important. Let's talk a little bit about my childhood. First, about my father. He never really participated in any fatherly things. Most of the time, he was absent. I remember him being kind of selfish and self-absorbed, and he left when my parents got divorced when I was 12. My mother, though, she was a single mom, and she tried. She had very little money and did what she could, and honestly had a hard life. She really adored my brother, who was about a year and a half older than me, and I can't blame her. He's a great guy, even to this day, but not me. My only memories of her were her saying, "You're just like your father. I hate you." Or, "God, you remind me of your father. I can't even look at you. You make me sick. Go to your room." This was pretty much an everyday occurrence. I actually talked to my brother after one of my therapy sessions about this situation, and his response was actually kind of surprising. He said it was actually much worse than that. And most times I remember thinking to myself, man, I feel so bad for him. And then one day it hit me. I think my father also had ADHD. All the signs were there, which would also explain why my mother was seeing it in me. Although none of us knew at the time it was ADHD, I wasn't diagnosed till later in life. She knew she recognized it, like seeing evil inside me. And the only other person she had seen this in before was the person she hated the most, my dad. So let's be clear. I'm not saying ADHD is caused by bad parenting, and I'm not saying genetics don't matter. What I'm saying is that family history may include more than DNA. It may also include repeating patterns such as stress patterns, emotional regulation patterns, coping patterns, and generations of people who never got the support they needed. And because of this, generations after generations, the child may experience inconsistency, unpredictability, emotional intensity, or a lack of attunement as stress or trauma. Quick side note, I had to look up attunement because I didn't know what it meant. It's the state of being in harmony or responsiveness to another person's emotions, their needs, or inner state, often described as feeling felt. It involves deep listening, empathy, and non-defensive awareness, allowing individuals to resonate with each other. This process is essential for building trust, strengthening relationships, and fostering secure attachments, particularly between parents and children. It's kind of occurring to me just now that the word I didn't know the meaning to and had to look up is the very thing I have been searching for and craving, as well as been terrified of my entire life. But that's for another video. If a parent is constantly overwhelmed, reactive, distracted, emotionally unavailable or inconsistent, impulsive, or undersupported, the child may develop survival patterns. And a lot of times they do. They may become hypervigilant. They may become people pleasers. They may struggle with emotional regulation. They may internalize shame. They may feel personally responsible for the emotional temperature in the room. They may learn to scan for danger instead of feeling safe enough to focus. Or it might be a whole tangled mess of a bunch of them. So now back to the main question. Is ADHD hereditary from nature or nurture? Is it from the genetic code passed at conception or an adaptation due to having ADHD parents? For me, based on my personal experience, the jury is still out. Scientists are clear that although their research shows a strong, repeatable correlation between ADHD children and at least one ADHD parent, they cannot conclusively show why and have yet to find the actual genetic link. Myself, I believe both genetics and environment are involved, especially in the early years of brain development. How much each contribute, I don't know. Honestly, it probably depends. But I do know understanding is the first step to healing, which is why I'm on this journey with this YouTube channel. And hopefully I help someone else along the way, but I get a lot of it myself. Finally, maybe the point is not to blame the generation before us. I think the key message here is to break the cycle and become the generation that finally names it, understands it, and stops passing it forward without getting the necessary support they need. Because regardless of whether ADHD is passed on through genetics, a loving home with a supportive, nurturing parents who allow space for any child to grow and develop will give the child the best chance, regardless of ADHD. I'll end with this quote from Gabor Mate. We may not be responsible for the world that created our minds, but we can take responsibility for the mind with which we create our world. And remember, you're not broken. You're not alone. You're just human. Thanks for watching.